Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got a little bit of a different video for you. We're going to be starting a new series, or possibly a new series, depending on how popular it is and how much interaction it gets. But we're going to be talking about building loadouts. This is going to be for both competitive and HVZ, things like that. We're going to be talking about different styles of play, what is a loadout and stuff like that. And it's really hopefully going to harbor a little bit of questions and discussion down in the comments from you guys as well as myself. So that's kind of what I'm going for here. And I think with this video, we're going to talk more so on the competitive side of things. We'll do an HVZ one at a later time, but I feel like the first thing that we should be talking about is what is a loadout and kind of defining what a loadout is. Now, before we get too far into the subject matter, I kind of want to give you a little bit of my background and just to give you an idea of where I'm coming from and give you my kind of experience so far. That way you can judge it for what it's worth. Take everything anyone says on the internet with a grain of salt, obviously. But I wanted to be out in the open with you guys with my experience and how much I've played, and let you decide and kind of guide the conversation from there. So I am a very competitive person at heart. While I don't play a competitive league within Nerf, I have played competitive sports, both team and individual, before. So I feel like when I do play Nerf, it is more of like a kind of casual competitive side of things where there's objectives and there's two teams, and things like that. But I feel like, that knowledge plus my knowledge of playing in a high level, high competitive sports, kind of feeds into that, kind of fills in the blanks a little bit. So anyway, I kind of wanted to give you a little bit of the background on how I feel, my 2 cents is worth. Might only be worth really like, 1.5 cents. So anyway, like I said at the top, this video we're going to be talking about competitive play, and we're going to be talking about building a loadout and what is a loadout. And I took some time, did some research, watched a whole bunch of videos, read a whole bunch, and I even went further than Nerf and went into like airsoft and a little bit into paintball, not too much, but I feel like Nerf has got a little bit more in common with airsoft and airsoft play versus paintball. But they're still kind of sister sports to a Nerf competitive scene. So I went there and was looking at kind of what is a loadout, and I came up with 2 kind of general definitions. Google says that a loadout is a set of items or equipment carried for a specific purpose. That's what Google says. Now I came up with kind of almost like a 2-tier system where there's kind of like the general category of a loadout, and then there's like a subcategory of a weapon loadout. Today, we're going to be talking more so on the weapon loadout side of things, and talking more so about primaries and secondaries and things like that. And then we'll, talk about like the gear in another video. So for this video, we're going to be breaking it down into 2 sections. We're going to first talk about the style of a loadout, and then we're also going to be looking at ammo and magazines. The first up, let's talk about the kind of the main 2 styles of a loadout. Now I know there's probably more than that, but these are kind of like the 2 that I kept running into in my research. There's the complementive, and then there's the specialized. The complementive is where your primary weapon selection complements each other. That complements your primary versus your secondary. So if, for example, your primary is the Harrier, for example, right? And while the Harrier is amazing as a long range, long distance, it can be a long barrel with that blaster, therefore making it, going into close quarters a little bit more difficult, right? And so with it being a Springer, you can't kind of peel off like 3 or 4 shots, when you're in close quarter combat. So something like a Lepus, where it's like an automatic one-handed blaster, would complement the Harrier very, very well. Because it's a flywheeler, so you don't have to worry about pumping it. It's a single hand operation. It's got a very small profile. It's very wieldable with the Harrier at your side. In most cases, you wouldn't even have to sling the Harrier. You would just pull out the Lepus and bring the Harrier in close. That's kind of a complementative. The specialized is more along lines where you're filling a specific role on your team and both your blasters meet that role. So for example, again, we'll take the Harrier, fantastic long distance, long range blaster. But like, what happens when you run out of ammo? And if for example, if you have your Lepus, if you have the Lepus on you, you can't switch to your Lepus and expect to get the same results shooting at that long distance. Instead, if you use something like a Zinc 2.0, you could switch to that and have a little bit, have that same distance, probably not the same distance, but have that same kind of feeling, that same action shooting from that distance. You don't have to change your gameplay style as you would with something like the Lepus, where if you ran out of ammo with the Harrier, you could either A, reload and continue shooting, or B, switch to the Lepus and change your playstyle, meaning moving closer for a closer shot with the Lepus. Contrast that with the Zinc, you could A, reload your Harrier, or B, switch to your Zinc and start peeling off shots and continue that pressure from where you're at. Yes, you may want to move in closer, but you don't have to, because that type of blaster fits that role very well and it's very specialized. So for me, I really kind of fall into the first group, the complementary, and that is more so along the lines of, I just like the idea of my primary doing A, B, and C, and then my secondary or sidearm doing D, E, and F. Keeping them both separate and really kind of being a jack of all trades. And that's me personally, right? Because I move around the field a lot, that fits my play style. You, on the other hand, might have a different play style. You might like, the kind of sniper role and sitting back and pinging people from a distance, and having a really loud flywheeler as your secondary, giving away your position. It might not be your cup of tea, and might not, and that's okay. Like that, I can see that. I really can. That, I originally was all for that play style where I would play with, the Tryon, and then I would have my Dart Zone Mark II, and it would just be like peeling off shots with the Tryon, and then like, oh, someone's getting closer, pull out my Mark II, and then, got the, and it worked out pretty well. The problem that I ran into is my play style didn't match what I thought it was going to be when I got into that type of scenario. When I started playing more arena style games, I started moving around the map more, going more in close quarters, and having to prime that Dart Zone Mark II every time I wanted to take a shot was really kind of, it kind of encroached on my play style, especially with having a bulky Tryon on a sling. I was finding that lowering that and making sure that that was solid, and then pulling out my Mark II really kind of was a hindrance. So switching to a flywheeler single hand is kind of where I've kind of landed. Who knows how long this will last, or if it will change or evolve over time, but I really feel after getting some solid gameplay under my belt that this is probably where my loadout is going to sit to match my play style. So the second part of your loadout that you should be considering, and this is what I've kind of found in my research, is there's really two kind of main categories for styles of ammo and magazines. Now, it might be different if you're playing in arena competitive versus HVZ. Again, we're just talking about arena competitive right now. But there's really two type of ideas here. One is compatibility, and the other one is unique. So compatibility is the same ammo type, same magazines from your primary to your secondary, right? So that means you can switch between the two willy-nilly and not to worry about it, right? So you're again going back to the Harrier and the Lepus, right? They both take Worker Talon magazines. It works great. You can have a rig full of Worker Talons, and it doesn't matter which one you're currently using, all your magazines will work on there. Now, darts, on the other hand, might be a different story. That's where you're going to have to really kind of figure out, either make a compromise and just go with one dart that works okay in both blasters, or you're going to have to, go with one dart that works good for your Harrier and one dart that works good with your Lepus, and that's kind of where that's going to fall. So the unique side of things is where you have a different ammo type, different magazine between the two, right? The problem or the low part of this one is the thing that you're going to struggle with is where do you keep those magazines? What, do you do 75-25, like, percentage wise? Do you have more? Obviously you have more of your primary. How many do you carry of your secondary, and what does that look like? For example, this would be something like having like a Moto Blitz that has long darts in for the shotgun blast, and then you can have long darts for the main one, or you could have Talon magazines. Either way, you can have it converted. But you'll have two types of ammo. So you'll want to carry at least some extra ammo for that shotgun blast on the Moto Blitz. This could be in the fashion of, dart storage on the blaster itself, or it could be in a pouch, like on your side. That could be, an example of having unique ammo types based on what your purpose is for that blaster. You want to use, for that shotgun blast, you want to use something that's widespread. So using like, the waffle tip darts that traditionally shoot very straight and true aren't necessarily what you're looking for with a shotgun blast. You're more or less looking for Nerf Elite 2.0, that they're kind of, flare out a little bit more, get you a little bit more space. This also kind of goes into, talking about using like Worker Talon magazines versus, full length dart magazines, and how does that look on your rig? How many of each one of those are you willing to commit to for that cause? Again, personally, I can see it both ways. Like I can see, compatibility being a fantastic, way to play the game, right? You don't have to worry about, what magazine I'm grabbing, no matter what blaster I have in my hand. For me personally, using like the Tryon and the Nightingale, I'm gonna have two different types of magazines. Like that's just the way it is. The Nightingale works much better with worker Gen 2s, whereas my Tryon works much better with the bamboo darts. So that's not necessarily a big deal because they're already separated out between the two different magazines. Now with my secondary on my rig, I typically run 2 or 3 extra mags of the Nightingale just so that I have a backup in case something goes wrong with my primary. And that's something else that you'll want to consider is your secondary isn't necessarily like your last ditch effort, like, like, oh, if I run out of ammo in my magazine, do I change magazines or do I switch to my secondary? It kind of depends on your personal play style and what the situation you're in, right? If you're having like a sniper battle, and you run an ammo in my Tryon, I'm not going to switch to my Nightingale unless I plan on moving and closing in the gap, which probably isn't going to benefit me if it's a standoff. But anyway, I can understand the difference, the unique attributes between the two play styles and the two different ammo types for your loadout, but it's just something to think about. So okay guys, so that is our video for today. Let me know in the comments below. I'm kind of curious what your current loadout, your weapon loadouts look like for your arena style gameplay with competitive matches. Just kind of looking to branch out a little bit and see, I've got my heart set on the Tryon, but I could always build different loadouts, and I'm looking to kind of expand a little bit. So I'm kind of curious what you guys are playing with and what you've seen success with. Don't forget to kind of leave in there not only what you're playing with, but your play style. We all know that, certain blasters meet certain expectations, but if your play style is different than someone else's, they might use that blaster differently. So, don't forget to leave in how you play your games and, what types of things you're running with those blasters. So, thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll make sure to leave a couple videos that you might be interested in. Something like our gameplay video that we did at down in the Cincinnati Kane event recently. We've got a couple more of those coming up, so this is one you'll really enjoy. So definitely check it out, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.